gathered in the evening. Thank you all for the happy presence you have given me this evening. And I thank the our host who has organized this opportunity. And I am asked to speak something about the masters of wisdom today. The word master is used with a special significance in this century. We know the word a philosopher, a scholar, and a man of wisdom. And all these terms are used for different persons to indicate an extraordinary and superhuman efficiency in certain branches of wisdom. Apart from it, the word master is significant in its own way. In its special sense, it is for the first time used by Madame Blavatsky to indicate a group of people who work in their own way for the perfection of humanity in a multi-dimensional direction. The word master indicates mastery, and that is the significant part of those people. We can gain mastery in one subject or two subjects. One can show an extraordinary skill, discover new dimensions about wisdom. But the difference between a master and all the other people is a mastery not upon any subject or any branch of wisdom, but at first a mastery upon themselves. For this reason, they are separately called the masters of wisdom. Those people who are called the masters, they have made a scientific study of their own constitution and discovered a wonderful mechanism having many dimensions in themselves. For example, the physical body and its functions, the vital body and its functions, the mental body, the intellectual body, the creative will, and what they call soul, and a doorway into what they call spirit. They understood that the human constitution is an exquisite piece of machinery having many mysterious computers. Apart from the functions of all the machines discovered by man, the constitution includes a creative consciousness which is not present in any machinery except himself. And they also discovered that anything created by man can never be greater than man himself. For this reason, they have become masters. Otherwise, when a person who is not a master discovers something wonderful, immediately he goes into the foolishness of believing his creation greater than himself. The result is he loses his birthright of mastery, and within a short time he becomes a servant and not a master of his own creation. That is what we often see in those who are not masters. For example, a rare spark of human intellect has discovered money in this world, and from that day till today, the intellect of the majority of the human beings began to believe that money is greater than themselves, and they have sold themselves to money, and they live as the slaves and servants of money instead of masters. Similarly, when the scientists discovered scientific truths, and when the technologists discovered the many conveniences of man, they immediately believed that these aspects of civilization are more valuable than themselves, and they have become slaves of their own creation, and the result is we are being crushed by ourselves under the heavy wheels of civilization. In this single aspects, the master stands aloof from us, and their common sense never permits them to believe that their creation is greater than humanity. Can we believe that the mustaches and the beard we grow can protect us and save us and give us livelihood? It is foolish. Similarly, it is equally foolish to believe that the money we have created and the properties we have made, the houses and the lands and the fields, they protect us, they save us, and they make us live. If we believe this, we will be equally foolish. The masters are those who do not commit this mistake. They know the value of humanity up to such an extent that there is no human being on earth who is not honored by the masters. There is no question of ignoring any living being in the view of the masters, for the simple fact that life is a gift of God and the living being is a specimen of God's existence on this earth. This is the single aspect which keeps masters above and beyond us. And for the same fact, we can never grow in stature as far as the masters unless we sacrifice all our complexes, all our self-made ideals, our sectarianisms, and the worship of what we love. Unless we make a sacrifice of all these things, and unless we burn mercilessly all that we have created in our mind, we can neither understand the stature of the masters nor dream of attaining such a stage. Now let us go into the facts of a few masters. Towards the end of the previous century, a lady from Russia had come into contact with a few people by the mere fact that they picked her up and they gave her some directions to organize a society and establish foreign nuclei on the various parts of the globe to stimulate the human consciousness into the direction which leads to the path of perfection. And some of them have revealed to her their identity and they have taken her to their hermitage and they have trained her, and then they have transmitted their message to the world through two great books. The first one is called Isis Unveiled. The second one is called The Secret Doctrine. And since that day till today, these two works have influenced the minds of great thinkers belonging to the various branches of wisdom. The dimensions of medicine, physics, chemistry, biology, planetary science, and many hundreds of sciences, they owe much to the author in getting the stimulation for the dawn of new dimensions in the science. And when you go into the history of the tracing of the scientific ideas back, if you can trace back the history of the various scientific thoughts, you will find the seed thoughts in her books, and you will understand how the values of science have been thoroughly changed through a period of 75 years. And those masters who have trained her have given her another science which is not yet taken up by the modern man. It is called the science of man, and it is intended to be the science of those who know the art of living. It makes us capable of living in such a way that our very life will be an artistic piece that can be imitated by anyone in the first stages and that can be created by themselves in the advanced stages. It is the science which makes a god out of a man. The science was there during the past centuries in all the ancient nations. And there was a time when all the nations were having a common communication and a common syllabus for learning. In those days, there were students from all parts of the world who could learn this science in their own languages and who produced inspired writings among their own languages. And those books have stood the test of time, and we now call them the scriptures of the various nations. That's the reason why all the world's scriptures convey the same message, include the same symbolism, and mainly contain the same stories and fables also. When you make a study of the stories of the scriptures, for example, the story of the flood and the story of Noah, you will find this story in all the scriptures of all nations. Similarly, the descent of the Lord on this earth and the return of the Son of God to this earth can be found in the scriptures of all nations similarly. The names and terminology differ from language to language, but the narratives and the wisdom remains the same. This is because it was the work of the masters. These masters have gained a mastery over themselves at first. They have understood their mind and their intellect, and they have analyzed their likes and dislikes, and they could understand their likes and dislikes as temporary values, and they could eliminate these temporary values and filter and distill and purify and gather the crystal personalities of themselves, and they could discover what was there in them eternal, and they could get the eternal element free from the impurities through a peculiar process of self-distillation, and they have seen the world with the purified eyes, and the instrument was perfected, and through the perfected instruments they have studied what the world was. That's the reason why they have no two opinions about anything, and no two masters disagree about any basic truth. This is the wonderful thing which the ordinary intellect cannot understand, because it is the experience of the common intellect that no two intellectuals agree upon a single point, just as no two watches agree. If two watches were to agree and show the same time exact to the minute and second, it is not enough if we know how to use the watch. It is necessary to know how to produce the watch, and also to have the capacity to produce watch on the physical plane. Then only we can make two watches which agree with each other. Like that, the masters produced themselves in such a way that they made instruments that are never personal, and they eliminated the personal element from their instruments, so that the instruments remained identical in their achievements, though each instrument kept its own identity according to the field to which it has been applied. This is a rare thing which we cannot easily understand, but it happens to be true. because people exist on this earth with a perfect mastery upon themselves and their own nature. And two wonderful masters began to guide Madame Blavatsky and gave her a plan for the betterment of humanity. The two masters were called Master Moria and Master Kuthumi. They were on the background directing Blavatsky and her plans, and afterwards they allowed one of their disciples to direct Blavatsky and her disciples. They had one wonderful disciple whom they were perfecting for a long time. The disciple was called Master Jwalkul, and he still calls himself a disciple because he calls his masters also disciples. And he says that up to the level of the Christ all are disciples. In the sense, everyone is trying to get himself more perfected. That's why he calls himself still a disciple. But we should not understand that he is in our level by calling himself a disciple. And it was he who had dictated many passages in the secret doctrine. And after Madame Blavatsky passed away from the physical body, he took up another lady from the Occident, and he has organized a 30 years of work with her and dictated as many as 24, which stand in continuation with the books of Madame Blavatsky. And the general principles that are given in the books of Blavatsky have been developed in these books, and many scientific particulars have been worked out. And a branch of the new science, which we can call the science of man, has been worked out in all detail in a clear and scientific way, without allowing the mystical element or without allowing any glorifying element to take place in the books. Purely on the realistic plane and logical and psychological planes, now we have the science of spiritualism and a working hypothesis of practical training of the human constitution, a working hypothesis of the practical workability of the science upon the human constitution is presented in all detail in the 24 volumes dictated by Jwalkul to the new disciple after Madame Blavatsky. That new disciple is called Alice A. Bailey, and the work is going on without interruption because they have the skill of continuing the work through generations and generations, because they know the way how to establish the stream of work. Our methods of establishing the work differ from the methods of the masters. Our methods of establishing the work differ from the method of organizing the work by the master. We often establish some institutions and very sound lines, firm lines, and we take every care to see that the institute is made stable, well organized, well functioning, and the whole thing rotates around the person who has established it, and his magnetic personality radiates the existence of the whole institution. Radiates through the institution. The result is, as soon as the founder personality dies, the institution goes into the hands of others who could not understand the objects of the founder, and the result is conflicts, disruption, and total ruin of the institution. We have seen the history of the Theosophical Society. Now The libraries of the Theosophical societies and the great books about the masters in the societies are being honored by spiders and cobwebs. Any organization is bound to go into disruption. We see the many political and spiritual monasteries and organizations based on the greatness of the founder. The result is a speedy death within a maximum period of 3 generations. We cannot find an exception to this till now. The masters know this secret and they follow a peculiar way to see that the work continues through centuries and thousands of years. They have studied the layers of consciousness of the humanity at large. There is a surface layer which we can call the century consciousness layer. It will be as great as the main centers of the big cities in the Occident. What we find is the great glamour and the bustling traffic of human consciousness. It keeps every one of us very busy, and when we look back what we have done throughout the day, and when we think of the day's labor at the end of the day, we wonder what we have achieved while going around the city in a very, very busy and restless manner. We have gone to our office, have done some work there, came home, and the sum total of the work of the day is that we could organize everything to eat, to drink, to live in, that is house, and to clothe ourselves, to purchase our shoes, to purchase our fancy goods, and to purchase medicines. So the busiest activity of the day only keeps up our existence. And if we question ourselves why we should do all this, the answer is to live. Automatically there is the second question, why we should live. The answer is because we are helpless, we should live.
Nous devons vivre.
And because we cannot kill ourselves, we should live.
Nous devons vivre.
And because we are born without our own knowledge, it is imperative that we should live. We can't help living. Except this answer, we have no answer to satisfy ourselves. But this is what we call the century mind. Every century has its own busy mind as the first layer of humanity, human consciousness. Under that layer, there is the second layer, which can be called the layer of the thinkers of the century. There you find the scientists, the philosophers, and the various industrialists and professors of economics, architecture, medicine, etc. The professors and the students are very busy in teaching and learning things. And what is the result? It is only to keep up the balance of the living. Once again the same reply, to make a livelihood and to live until we die. There is the third layer, where there are rooms underground, where people sit down calmly and think something about the activity of life. They know the statistics of the centuries. They have the micro photos of the intrinsic value of centuries, which are obtained after filtering away all the detail of the busy life we have. And with those micro photos of human values through centuries, they sit down there, begin to play chess, not for fun, but for the rearrangement of human values and reorganization of human cultures, to see if a change can be exercised so that the human being can have a recollection of the truth, that he is more valuable than his creation or the bustle of the street. It is really very difficult to make us recollect this truth. But still they make psychological and supra-psychological experiments on the constitution of man and the psychology of groups, psychology of religions, parties, and the various methods of combinations of individuals. And they succeed in bringing out a new pattern and present it to the awareness of the century, so that at least 25% of the thinkers of the century begin to respond